does your community, and this is a big issue again, you were just trying to talk about this, does your community have boundary markers? And if so, what are they? And if not, why not? Now, I've had a lot of confusion in this question because when we hear the term boundary markers, our immediate picture is, do we have the electric fence that has the do not enter sign on the outside? And that's not what I'm asking about. What I'm asking about is, is there a marker that you can kind of tell where the circle of the community kind of ends and where it begins? That says, this is the community and this is not. It's not a big guarded gate with, guns and electric fences and things like that. So, what boundary markers do you have?
I think for us, there's nothing really intentional, but I think the family thing comes back here too. I think
you have a negative boundary marker.
It's somewhat in a way, and again, it's not an intentional thing, but there is that sort of an invisible boundary, and
okay.
It is something to really try to work past intentionally.
I think it's Steve actually. Lift it up. There you
go. So there is some of that. It's trying to get other perspectives, and nobody discourages that, but it just kind of has happened.
Right. Okay. Do you have any positive ones though? We've all seen negative ones. I always remember a church where if you were in the choir and you weren't part of the family, you wouldn't get called when practice would be canceled. So that's a negative one. But do you have any positive ones?
I think maybe the viewpoint that moving to is trying to include other folks, and when new people will come in, really trying to get, saying you don't have to put in 10 years here before you can serve. We want you to be an important part now.
Maybe that is you, Chris. I don't know.
I think
people when watching YouTube are going,
that'll teach them a not common person.
I like being mean. It's one of the reasons why the Mennonites won't take me. I'm too mean. So okay, that's cool. What about you?
Official boundary markers are some of us talk about that it was much more interesting when we had visible boundary markers.
Plain dress.
Right. Or whatever. Ethnicity was visible, in some ways.
Right.
The markers were related to your names. So when that isn't in place, you're forced to, and I'd say that we're forced to one of two things. It's either practice, like what we do,
right,
or what we think.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd say we're really fighting through that as Mennonites fight.
Do you take them both up at the same time, or do you really think that the boundaries are going to be one or the other?
I think there's to some degree both, but if it is, which of those? I can tell you what the formal ones are,
right?
What we think they are, but that's the reality is not that that's it.
What actually works out? Yeah.
Because if a person who is from a Mennonite church at this point goes and does military service,
right,
or starts to attend a Unitarian church, and I'll actually use a real example that I know.
Unitarian church?
Sure, even Unitarians. But their last name is still connected to the tradition.
Yeah.
Well, they're still Mennonite, even though they're at the Unitarian congregation.
Right.
Whereas the reality would be if Chris or I start to do the Unitarian thing, we're done. We're done. So
you're not Stoltzfus. You're done, right?
No, they know we've walked away because we have no ethnic identity that maintains us. There's some conversation about, is it around peace? Is that our identifying marker?
Right.
And if so, what does that mean?
Uh-huh.
And that's, I think, a real question, especially sort of in contemporary culture, if that's it. Mm-hmm. The other boundary issue that we struggle with right now, and in lots of ways, is around homosexuality. Mm-hmm. Is that a boundary? Once you've crossed that line, mm-hmm, you're no longer us. And we've responded to that in a variety of ways, not all consistently. But we know, I think at this point we would say that if you don't believe in the Trinity, you're out, but maybe not. So it's kind of it's a really,
that cultural thing is still there. So, Okay.
Yeah, it's a really arbitrary line. It's tough, and that's what makes it tough, I think, for persons who are new to the tradition to figure out if they're in or out, is because the line itself is blurry. And so we we don't know how to navigate it. Sometimes we think we're in because, well, of course we believe this.
Right.
We're in, we're attending the church, well, then we find out that we're not totally in. And that can be very frustrating.
Yeah, and that does make it difficult to join, because if you don't have a clear boundary marker, there's no way to know where you stand. There's no reference.
Yeah, well, some of our newer congregations, the way that they deal with that is they say, if you attend and you're a part of our worshiping communal life, then you are us. And so most of those congregations don't have, the interesting thing is they don't seem to make marks based on creed, which is a Mennonite hallmark, as we say we don't do marks based on creed. But then they're actually pushing towards practice.
Okay, now what did you just say, Mark?
We don't say that our boundary is related to a creed.
Oh, okay, related
Sort
to
of
a creed.
a boundary
okay,
is a creedal thing.
Right.
So what those congregations then are saying, it's a practice. If you show up to worship here, if you contribute as your life as part of this, you're in.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating. So they're saying it's practice.
Which is pretty traditional Anabaptist.
It is pretty traditional Anabaptist.
So, praxis is key.
Yeah.
There's a great story. A friend of mine, guy was thinking about going to an Orthodox seminary. He goes, you don't even understand. I'm not even sure I believe in the virgin birth. And the guy doing admissions kind of chuckled to himself. He says, don't worry, you will. But the statement was, if you are in this praxis, the Spirit will mold you in such a way as to the theology will come out, that's a traditional Anabaptist way of thinking. Doctrine or dogma comes out of our praxis, which is also Eastern Orthodox. We don't do that. It's only the songs. That doesn't matter.